What's up, everybody? Sunday, August 6th, right after UFC Mexico. Yours truly, Joe Ferraro with the Fightful MMA podcast. Holy smokes, every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm joined tonight, as always, after every UFC event. Unfortunately, sometimes he goes solo. Well, he's only gone solo once. Sean Ross Sapp, at Sean Ross Sapp. Make sure you give him a follow on social media. Sean, what's going on, my man? We got lots to discuss here with this. I noticed a caption you put on the YouTube site. In capital letters, Von FLUE chokes. Why? We'll get to that. But how are you, sir?
A lot more to talk about on this show than I had anticipated. I'll say that much. We got a top 10 light heavyweight fight announced. We have the Tough 26 cast announced. What would you have done in 2014 if I looked at you dead square in the eye and said, in 3 years, Roxanne Modafferi might really be a UFC champion and might be one of the odds-on favorites to win the title?
I would have just looked at you and felt sorry for you, perhaps. Right?
I'll say this. This is more of a compliment of her improvement than it is a condemnation of anything else. But there is still plenty of condemnation that will go on in regards to that cast. But yeah, lots to talk about.
I don't even know if they've even sent off an official press release for that, because I haven't seen anything at all. I've been going through, all my emails, going through my spam. I'm like, they usually send something out. There's nothing there. I almost want to go back on my PVR. I guess you Americans call it DVR, but I want to go rewind back and take a screenshot so we could talk about it here. But
well, we've got that up on Fightful.com. Hot damn.
Yes, I was just going to say.
We'll go ahead and talk about it now because, we don't have to put it in order. Here are the names that are going to be on the Ultimate Fighter 26. Emily Whitmire, Montana Stewart, Maya Stevenson, Jillian Robertson, Rachel Ostovich, Lauren Murphy, Nico Montano, Roxanne Modafferi, Christina Marks, Barb Honchak, Karine Gevorgian, Melinda Fabian, Sajara Eubanks, Shayna Dobson, Deanna Bennett, Ariel Beck. Or as we like to say here in America, who?
Yeah. Sorry, did you say, because I didn't hear you say Joanne Calderwood. Can you say Joanne?
No, definitely not Joanne Calderwood. Hey, how about that Alexa Grasso who won tonight? Not her either.
Yeah.
No, Raquel Pennington? No.
No.
Not happening. Joanna? No. Really, this season of The Ultimate Fighter should be called Ultimate Fighter 26. Joanna's next victim.
Yeah, pretty much at this point here. Yeah, I thought Joanna was winning this show some way, somehow, but it is what it is. What are you going to do? This Mexico show, the one thing I was noticing, if those that don't know, Sean Ross Sapp was manning the Fightful.
I'm not done talking about this season. Yeah,
you're all over this thing, aren't you?
It's something we got to talk about. We don't have another weekend show until September 2nd, maybe. But Pennington, not on it. Okay. Carmouche, I thought maybe she would be on it. Shevchenko, obviously she's got other things in the works. Maybe a Cynthia Cavillo could have been. And then you've got to wonder how this would change the landscape of strawweight, especially because there are some girls there like Michelle Watterson who are dealing with some girls with some size. Like also, damn it, Australian girl, Beck Rawlings.
Yeah. But she's tall. Even you mentioned Liz Carmouche. I don't know if Liz could do 125 now. And Beck's a tall girl. I don't think she can do 125 now.
She did 115.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of still thinking of Liz. I'm just kind of thinking to myself.
Yeah.
When I saw some of these girls, I was kind of like, oh, 125 would be kind of hard for them. But I got you. A
lot of these girls, they were like, you know what? Like, why do we need to get these Joanne Calderwoods on the show? There are plenty of 2-2 girls that we can put on this show. And I had somebody saying, well, Barb Honchak, she's really good. Well, is she? I don't know. I haven't seen her fight since 2014. Okay. I don't know if she's good or not. She might still be good. She was the first Invicta flyweight champion. Then Lauren Murphy, who's in the UFC. But let's be honest, if this hadn't happened this season, she might be on her way out of the UFC. Roxanne Modafferi, which here's the thing, there are so many of these girls that we've seen that are like 1-2, 2-2, 3-2. They might just be, it could be the next Rose Namajunas.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, Remember when Johanny and Jacek came to the UFC? People were like, who? Right?
Yeah.
So you just never know. You never know who can come out of the show here. We'll give benefit where benefit belongs. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm looking forward to the actual show because the show is basically designed to give us an insight to everyone that competes on there, especially those that make it through the tournament, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we go back to that first show with Carlos Esparza on there and Felice Herrig. We really got to know their characters, so who they are. So I am looking forward to the show, and we got two spectacular coaches that are just going to go at each other in Alvarez and Gaethje, most likely. So it should be fun. I'm going to enjoy it.
And things work out seemingly okay for Dustin Poirier, who lost out on that Alvarez fight because Anthony Pettis said tonight that he's hoping to fight Dustin Poirier. And when I heard that, I said, okay.
Yes.
Cool. We have somebody in the chat, Vinny Fernando, saying, isn't Calvillo kind of small for 125? She's fought a bantamweight before. She's fought a bantamweight. She's fought at flyweight. She's done 120-pound catch weights. I would imagine it's hard for me to guess where she wants to be. But August 30th, that's debuting. So
yeah, if you're tuned in right now live, ladies and gentlemen, on the chat, by all means, or on the on YouTube on the top right, live chat, Stone Osborne's there, Vinny Fernando's already there. You guys can type whatever you like, put it in there. Don't get yourself in trouble with Sean.
Well, not whatever they like.
Yes. Oh, so I'm just going to finish my point. Just be careful because Sean will put you in a timeout or he'll block your ass. So
before we get into Mexico, what do you think of the fight, Glover Teixeira, Misha Cirkunov in October?
Personal bias aside, anytime Misha fights, I'm worried. But obviously with Glover Teixeira, his career's sort of winding down now, and Misha still, probably wants to get hungry or is hungry after what happened with his fight with Volkan Ozdemir. I like the fight. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good fight, dangerous fight for Misha. People don't understand. Glover Teixeira's got a good ground game, believe it or not. So Misha's got to be very careful. I just think Misha will, believe it or not, be able to kind of overpower him. The one thing about Glover Teixeira is he's got, dad strength. That not the Matt Hughes, Barreling Hayes strength, but like in my conversations with Glover numerous times, I know I've told the story before in previous podcasts. This is a guy that said if he ever came to Toronto, he'd be more than happy to help me work on my backyard. I was joking about putting up a fence and putting up a pool. He's like, you just give me a chainsaw and a shovel and I'm in. This guy loves manual labor. So he's got that strength. And Misha's a strong guy as well. So he's got to be careful in the clinch, but it's a fight, Sean. We'll break it down as we get closer, but I am very excited for this fight. I think it's going to be good. I think I'm going to give the edge to Misha.
I am too. It's not often you can lose a fight the way that Misha lost and get like a high profile fight like he did. But I think I know UFC sees the value in Misha Cirkunov because they re-signed him, and I'm pretty sure they want to get him back on the horse. I think it's a wise decision. It's a good opportunity. Happy all around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Some good fights were announced, but I want to go back to what he said about Pettis and Poirier, because I was sitting there just watching the broadcast, and when he said it, I was just kind of, what? Get it out there on social media. That was amazing. Okay, that'll be a solid fight. I think it's a dangerous fight for Pettis as well. Dangerous for both guys, because we all know Poirier, he hits like a truck, but he's kind of been slowing down as well, and we're seeing a bit of a resurgence with Pettis. So, yeah. Another solid fight. I really like that fight. Hopefully it goes down. They said, what, New York City and or somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So it was MSG and something else. But either way, please, UFC, sign it. I'd love to see it. Dre the Great talking about Grasso versus Markos, saying it was awesome, one of the best fights he's ever seen. We'll get to that in 2 seconds, guys. Let's just talk about that main event, Sergio Pettis and Brandon Moreno. In watching this fight, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Pettis is ready just yet for a title fight. I do want to see the Henry Cejudo fight. What say you? You want that title fight?
Is anybody ready for a title fight against Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson?
No.
You could argue maybe a TJ Dillashaw is. Maybe. But is anybody? Here's the thing. I think that Sergio Pettis deserved it before this fight over Ray Borg, who missed weight twice. Yeah, I think so. So in this fight, Brandon Moreno's right there. What a story that guy was. From getting eliminated in the first round of the Ultimate Fighter and being able to take a late replacement fight, him losing the first round of the Ultimate Fighter was one of the best things that could have happened to him. Because had he made it to the second round and then lost, he wouldn't have got that fight against Luis Smolka. He might not even be in the UFC right now. So he gets all the way here to a possible title eliminator, held his own in the first round. I thought did very well in the first round. You don't see a lot of guys implement that body triangle the way that he was able to in that first round. Some argued maybe a 10-8. What says you, Joe?
No, not a 10-8. Normally with a dominant round like that, I would give a 10-8, but because it was just positional and nothing really dangerous per se for Sergio Pettis to defend, there were naked attempts, but it wasn't like, there was one where Sergio put his thumbs up, but the arm was across the chin, right? It was more across the jaw. It wasn't across the neck. So it was a really fine line for a 10-8. I could see Big John McCarthy or Frank Trigg saying, no, it was a 10-8, but I wouldn't give it a 10-8 because 10-8 to me is more of a dominant in terms of damage, or scaring me as a referee or a judge and saying, ooh, that fight's going to end there. It wasn't in a situation where it was going to end. It was just a dominant position. So I scored it a 10-9 for that first round, and good for Sergio Pettis coming back, the next three rounds, and then the last round going back and forth.
Yeah, the thing I liked about Sergio Pettis is he fought at range, which is good, but he didn't the Pettis brothers don't fight good moving backwards, especially like you heard their corner say,
Duke said
don't throw kicks moving backwards, because that's a way that both of the Pettis brothers often get taken down. It's a way that a lot of people get taken down, throwing those kicks moving backwards. They work really well at range, and when they get aggressive, they particularly work well. It's like the old Lyoto Machida thing. Like anytime we've seen him get aggressive outside of maybe one situation, they do exceptionally well. I like that. Moreno had some pretty good slips here and there as well. I was very impressed with that. He had a very awkward style, but because of his
to say the least,
because of his awkward style and his awkward facial expressions, whenever Pettis would hit him and he would kind of go stone-faced, you knew something was up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's almost work to do that goofy type of situation where maybe he's trying to get Pettis to look at him in the face instead of track his shoulders, track his hips, anything like that. But I think that Sergio Pettis was going to win this no matter what, and I think that Moreno did his best to make a fight of it and did exceptionally well. Like I said, I was very impressed with him being able to slip some punches. But really in that second round going into the third, Pettis started to time Moreno and really took him to task.
Yeah, word just came out. Dustin Poirier is like, I'm down to Anthony Pettis. So
good.
Get her done. Get her done. So in terms of Sergio Pettis, I don't think he's ready just yet. I really want to see that Henry Cejudo fight. Do you think that is the fight that the UFC will put on next for Sergio Pettis, or will Sergio Pettis just sit there and wait, potentially slide in there for a title shot right after the Borg-Johnson fight?
I think they will wait until the Borg-Johnson fight to see how everything pans out. Maybe because if a Dillashaw fight is on the horizon, maybe. I don't think the UFC is too keen on the idea of a potential Johnson-Cejudo rematch. I mean, we all saw how that went. Demetrius Johnson initiated the clinch against
Olympic wrestler,
an Olympic medalist. And then when he got taken down, he put his feet, he butterflied Cejudo and launched him into the air like he was a child, then used nothing but knees and finished him like it. Man, and I mean, I will say this, Cejudo's gotten much better. But Pettis even knows he's not ready. He said as much. He knows he's not ready. Both of these guys that we saw fight tonight, Joe, 23 years old.
Young bucks. They're still young.
And Matt Roller says Cejudo's fighting Wilson Hayes on the DJ card.
Oh, it's confirmed?
I'm going to check in on that because, looks like it is. That went under the radar.
Yeah, I missed that completely. Well, I heard of it. I didn't think it was going to be confirmed, but okay. Guess so.
And that's shaping up to be a really good show. Demetrius Johnson, Ray Borg, Nunes, Shevchenko, Dos Santos, Ngannou, Magny, Dos Anjos, Stevens, Melendez, Cejudo, Hayes, even Latifi, Tyson Pedro, Sarah McMahon's on the show. Damn. Oh, Cajun Johnson. They gave him a fight after all that stuff.
Craziness. He's insane. He's hilarious.
It'll be his first fight in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks, Matt Roller. That one did slip under the radar. We appreciate it. That's why we have the live chat, because we love you guys and girls.
Yeah.
Keeping us honest. Absolutely. You were a huge fan of the Alexa Grasso Random Markos fight.
It was a good fight. It was a really good fight. Really fun. I had it for Random Markos, but, it's one of those fights. Like, what are you going to do? Grasso had a few pounds on Markos because she had a urinary tract infection, stopped cutting weight. My heart broke for this because, Markos said that she didn't have any money to train outside of, like, Michigan or something. But I get the feeling she should get $50K out of this.
Yeah, you're right.
Plus that big fat 5,000 from Reebok. Hell yeah, man.
I remember the first interview I did with Random Markos when she first got signed to the Ultimate Fighter. I think she was working, if I'm not mistaken, a drive-through. She was working in a drive-through, and she had to take a break to do the interview. Like, it was just insane. She was working live on her shift. I think it was a drive-through. Wherever she was working. She said, you can only call me between like 2:15 and 2:30, but it's got to be 2:15 sharp. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm at work. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So that was before she got onto the Ultimate Fighter. But she the last 2 or 3 fights, she fights like she's upset at the world. Like, she hates something.
Well, when you're making $14,000 to get CTE, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
She's getting like 14 to win, 14 to show, 5,000 from Reebok, and she probably needed to pick up that extra 50,000. I'd say probably the extra 50,000 was more important to her than the extra 14,000. Right? I mean, so in a loss, she might be just as happy, if not happier, than if she got the decision and maybe finish. Because had she won this in the first round, Joe, she's probably not getting 50,000.
Yeah, you're right.
There's so many finishes on this show. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that she strategically went to decision. I don't think that's the case, because she probably would have won the fight. But I like Random Markos. She should be ranked ahead of Carla Esparza, who she beat in the rankings.
Don't get me started on that. Yep.
Yeah, but she's a woman who you look at and you see her record 7-5. Well, that doesn't tell the story. She's got 3 fights on the Ultimate Fighter. She had 6 amateur fights. She's been in the game for over 8 years. So, I mean, when you're, 20 fights in, over 20 fights in, and you're getting $5K for your sponsorship from Reebok, you're going to go out and have fights like this, I would imagine, because she's no spring chicken. She's 31 years old. She'll be 32 in this week.
Absolutely. Vinny Fernando made a good point. If we can go back real quick to the main event, talking about Demetrius Johnson in the flyweight division, he's saying that isn't the next pay-per-view going to be right after the Mayweather-Mac card, and couldn't that help, possibly help buys? DJ deserves it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a UFC pay-per-view though. So it's a Showtime event. Are they going to promote?
That show's not going to get shit. That show's not going to get any buys. It's sandwiched between Mayweather McGregor and Triple G Canelo. It ain't getting dollars. Unfortunately, it's a great card. It's a really good card. But man, if that show cracks 200,000, it's a success for the UFC.
I think they'll do more than that.
Maybe.
I think they'll do more. I think
maybe. Did you hear the numbers for the Whitaker? The Whitaker one? It was like 120, I think.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. You got a point there. What does this win mean for either Alexa or Randa?
I don't think anything. It was a competitive back and forth fight. Puts them right in their place among the top 10 to 15 in that division is what I think. Probably about to be the top 10 in that division because of we're about to see the 2 divisions diluted to a degree because of this season of the Ultimate Fighter. Now I ask, are they going to start scheduling flyweight fights now? Like, is Joanne Calderwood's next fight at flyweight? Can Alexa Grasso jump up to 125 if she so chooses? Maybe she feels comfortable at 115, and it was just the urinary tract infection that prevented it. But I did like the look of Randa Markos' wrestling. She really smothered Grasso.
Ground and pound is fantastic. Did you see the second round?
Good.
The second round, when they were basically in a transition in the air, she thrusted her hips forward so she could land in mount. She landed in mount, but at the same time as the bounce back occurred, if I'm not mistaken, the bounce back occurred, and Alexa was able to turn her hips, which prevented the mount from being solidified.
Yes.
You know, Randa. And Randa's been doing it for a long time. I know from the people that she trains with out in Windsor and in Michigan. She loves the ground. She loves the ground and pound. She's no, Jack Hermanson, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, she likes the ground and pound. She likes, I mean, I'm telling you, when I saw her throwing those punches and elbows today, I'm like, shit, she's pissed off. She is pissed off right now. So good for her. Very, very impressive. Yeah, I mean, I asked you the question because I don't know what's going to happen with either one of these two ladies, but
they didn't get $50,000.
Who got it?
Ortiz, Morales, Banday, and Nico Price. Oh man,
Ortiz for the 15 seconds, Morales for the rear naked choke, and who else? Perez? No, Perez. No.
Nico Price and Bandanay.
Okay, well, that brings us up to Nico Price because he took out Alan Jouban in 1:44. Jouban didn't like a few punches that were coming no matter what, but when that one punch came in, there was controversy. People saying the referee, shouldn't have stopped the fight. Yes, he should have. That was a perfect stoppage.
Yeah. What the hell was Brian Stan talking about?
I missed that. I stepped away for a second. Did he ask the question to Nico afterwards?
Yeah, he had the balls to get in there while Alan Jouban is sitting there like pulling himself up the cage like one of those ducks in Super Mario World. Like it just say, do you think it was stopped early? Bro, stop with your agenda, man. Jouban couldn't stand up. He could not stand up. And this happened just like we said it would on Tuesday's show. It was the UFC's effort to take a guy like Jouban, who used to be a finisher, and try to make him fight an aggressive fight again. And Nico Price made him pay.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. But it was good. I mean, listen, great performance, very aggressive. But Jouban, I think, is just went on this peak and then see ya.
Yep.
Just faltered away. Just completely faltered away.
I would agree. And there's really not a ton to break down here. Nico Price just looked really good. This is the Nico Price this is what got him to the dance, was fighting like this. And he goes right to it. I mean, Jouban's going to be one of those guys, I think, that hangs around for a while, but maybe take a fight in the mainland, because fighting in London, fighting in Mexico hasn't worked out for him. So maybe bring it back to the States. But Nico Price, man, I mean, like this is what he did, was just finish fights in the first round, and it got him to the dance. And he won his first fight. I remember he beat Brandon Thatch with that arm triangle. But yeah, I'm glad to see him not straying from that, because so often, Joe, we see that and guys do whatever is necessary to get that next win. But I like it.
Yeah. Did you like Humberto Bandanay's KO of Martin?
Damn right I did.
That was sick, because you don't see those very often. You don't see a kick from or a knee. I mean, what would you call it? A knee kick. It was just like ping, and all of a sudden, whoop, body shuts down. I was like, damn, 26 seconds, son. You were the biggest underdog on this card. Like I was literally on my couch clapping my hands. I'm like, wow. That was fantastic. So it's why I love MMA. I sent you that message on WhatsApp, and I tweeted out, this is why MMA is fantastic. You just never know. Yeah. And it just so happens on a card with so many first-round finishes, the biggest dog on the card gets a first-round finish over the biggest favorite on the show. So good for Bandanay. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I am super ready to stop putting a bunch of stock into the Ultimate Fighter Mexico. I know that's for sure.
Not as bad as the Ultimate Fighter Asia.
Oh my God, yeah, that was pretty rough. But I loved it, man. Those two shots after the knockout were gross, and there's nothing that could be done. Well, I mean, Bandanay could have maybe not done it when he saw his opponent stiff as a board, but I think that he had plenty of time to see that his opponent wasn't conscious, but hey, and it was really he really caught him with the knee on the head kick. It's one of those knee kicks.
That's what I'm saying. It's a knee kick. It's beautiful. They're rare.
Very rare, and it seems like whenever they land, the person, like, nobody ever, like, you can't perfect that technique. There's no way to do it because part of it has to be your opponent leaning into it. But
yeah.
Let's talk about Rashad.
Well, in a second, because I want to ask you, what did you think of Nico Price's post-fight celebration?
What did he do? Did I miss it?
If I could give out a douche card, that would have been it.
What did he do?
He just went absolutely ballistic in there, like crazy. Dude, your opponent's unconscious. I know you're excited, you're full of adrenaline, but you gotta just, like, you know, the commission, the Latino, or what do they call themselves? The Latin American Mixed Martial Arts Commission, if I'm not mistaken, something of that nature. They were like putting up a wall almost. Like, dude, you need to step back. Like, stay away from.
How ironic.
I didn't even realize I said that. All right, then. Gotta love my Americans. Love my Americans. Anyways, I didn't think it was very professional for Nico Price, who I still think is a fantastic mixed martial artist, but kind of want to tone it down. But, you know, he was respectful in the post-fight interview, but that was annoying. Anyways, Rashad Evans. Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey emerges victorious. Rashad Evans, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 4th fight in a row that he's lost.
Yeah, I scored it for Rashad, but I don't know. Who gives a shit, right?
Yes. The argument could have been made that Rashad won the fight. It was a split decision. I get it. But before you go on, I want to ask you a question. It's not like we're seeing, because people are saying he's done, he can't do it anymore, hang up the gloves, and I'm like, I could buy that argument, but it's not like we were watching BJ Penn take absolute beatings in the octagon.
It's true.
Rashad Evans.
This was a Rashad Evans fight. This is a Rashad Evans fight. I tweeted that my all-time nightmare fight is Rashad Evans versus Tyron Woodley. They are, and I hate to compare the two because people will be like, oh, it's because of their skin color. No, it's because they fight exactly the same. Exactly the same. Hard overhand rights and a blasting power double. That is these two guys. And as we've seen with Rashad, it doesn't get pretty when you're older, and that's all you got. He ate a lot of knees as Alvey separated from that clinch whenever he would stuff the takedowns. I think that was it. I think that if Rashad actually didn't shoot, he probably, if he didn't shoot after the first round, I think he would have won the fight because Alvey wouldn't have landed hardly any knees. Alvey wasn't landing like any strikes at range either. Rashad was landing the strikes at range when the rare occasion happened when they would land, but Alvey, I don't recall him really scoring much there. It was Rashad trying that same thing up against the cage that it was Rashad Evans. It was the Rashad Evans that has not been winning fights, has not been putting asses in seats. That's what it was.
You're correct. The thing is, though, when you look at, if you get a chance, listen to the last minute of the fight. And while Brian Stan didn't have the greatest night this evening, he nailed it when he was explaining a few things about Rashad Evans. And it's something you and I talked about on Tuesday's Holy Smokes podcast. I brought up the fact that the only thing missing with Rashad Evans, it just seems, excuse me, to be confidence. It's the ability to pull the trigger. Because he was much faster than Sam Alvey. He just wasn't as aggressive. He wasn't pulling that trigger. He wasn't throwing those punches. He wasn't throwing those combinations. It's like it's there, but it's in a shell. It's almost like I don't want to risk it because I've been knocked out before, and I don't want to get knocked out again. That's what it seems like to me, because he's got the ability to just pull off this crazy speed. It's crazy combinations. And you saw when he even tried to throw he threw it twice, the same punch he threw versus Chuck Liddell. They were close, right? I think one of them did connect, just not on the chin. I think it came down hit more of the shoulder. It's there. He just doesn't have the ability to continually do that. So I thought to myself, yeah, he's just, The thing is, though, we have this label for guys that are former champions that when they don't compete at that former champion level and we see them kind of moving down the rankings, we think they're done. Technically, he's not done, in my opinion, because BJ Penn is done. Rashad Evans, in my opinion, is not done. Now, maybe he may be done in the UFC. Maybe he can go to Bellator. Maybe he can go compete somewhere else. I don't think Rashad Evans is done, in my opinion.
We saw him get knocked out one time in the last 8 years. So I just think he either needs to adjust his game plan or fight lesser competition. Hey, man, I'm not going to be mad at the guy if he wants to sit there and make $150,000 to fight a guy out of the top 15. If he wants to do that, so be it. And if he wants to do that, the UFC will probably, I don't know, maybe gladly, maybe begrudgingly give him a fight 5th from the top. This guy was 5th from the top.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
former
he
champion.
was below Martin Bravo and Humbert Bandenet.
Humberto. Love it.
Whatever.
Yep. It's disturbing to me, because there's a good chance I'm going to see him in 2 weeks when I go to do play-by-play for Titan. I'll have a conversation with him if I see him, obviously, but I don't believe he's done, man. I really don't believe he's done. But kudos to Sam Alvey pulling off a split decision. I'll be honest with you. I think you said it yourself. I scored it for Rashad. I didn't score for Sam.
Yeah, same, and I don't know how many fights Rashad has left on his deal, but I'm sure if he doesn't retire, the UFC will let him fight it out. I really did feel bad for him, even though he didn't do anything in that fight, really. Well, I can't say nothing. He did more. I think he did more than Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey threw some knees, and that was it. That's all I saw Sam Alvey land, but that's apparently all he had to land.
Opening bout of the main broadcast, Alejandro Perez. I want to ask you a question about this decision over Andre Sukumtat. Yes. So I had sort of the same reaction, and brings me back to the random Markos Alexa Grasso fight. I'd like to know who the judges were, because I'm not into conspiracy theories. But sometimes you wonder, our hometown, because I remember the Brazil thing. There were stats on decisions that were taking place in Brazil, where the foreigners are like, I ain't fighting in Brazil. I think Pearson once told me, I ain't fighting in Brazil. Then he realized, I'm going to get a good 10. I'll fight in Brazil. But there were professional fighters in the UFC back when I was covering it like live in Vegas, whatever. I ain't fighting in Brazil. Now people are wondering,
I'll tell you one thing.
I don't want to fight in Mexico.
If there's any Mexican home cooking, they ain't picking Sam Alvey. He is a pound-for-pound top 5 conservative in the UFC.
He also didn't fight a Latino fighter.
It's true. It's true.
That's what I'm saying here.
But
right?
yeah. So I had it for Andre. I did. I thought he won. I thought he was more aggressive. I thought he pushed the pace more. I thought he landed more. I thought he won the fight.
I think he won the fight as well. I
disagreed with all 3 of the split decisions on this main card.
Did you think Andre looked sort of like a bantamweight Jacare? The way he was throwing his jab and the way not the jab, but just the way he was striking, it looked like a smaller version of Jacare.
That's an interesting. That's interesting that you noticed that. I didn't, but now that you mention it, yeah, I see that.
Now, what is Andre's problem? Why isn't he pulling the trigger? He's beating a dude with his jab. I know so many boxing coaches that I've worked with that would have looked at this fight. I'm like, dude, if you're beating a guy with a jab, you need to start throwing 3-punch combinations right away. Right away.
Okay, so you know how I mentioned earlier that Nico Price didn't get away from what brought him to the dance? Mm-hmm. Andre has.
Yeah.
He finished all these guys in CES like nonstop, and he's popped into the UFC and had 2 split decision victories where he wouldn't come off of the jab. So, yeah, I'd like to see him change. I would love to see him get another shot, given the nature. Because usually if you go 0-2 in the UFC,
done.
You're done. But I would like to see him give it another chance, considering the nature of the 2 losses, especially this one.
Yes, absolutely. Jack Hermanson takes out Brad Scott which was one of my fun bets. I did pretty good with my fun bets again for this one here,
Sure
thankfully.
did.
Jack Hermanson in his post-fight interview says, I am the best. There's no one better in MMA with ground and pound than me. You watch that fight, he could be right, because that was absolutely spectacular. When he gets on top of somebody, oh, buddy, and Brad Scott was in a world of hurt. That was the longest 3 minutes and 50 seconds of anyone's life. I mean, Jack Hermanson put on a fantastic performance there. I think you mentioned it. Was it this last Holy Smokes podcast, or maybe during the recap of the last show? You did mention his name at middleweight, how we're technically excited about this guy. I'm way more excited now.
Oh, yeah. And his world tour continues. He fought in Mexico. His last one was in Sweden. His first UFC win in Germany. Before that, he fought in Italy a bunch, England. I remember when I read up on him, he had fought in Jordan. He even fought in the U.S. a little bit. This guy will go anywhere to put somebody down. Another one of those guys who is finishing fight. Well, there's a lot of guys on this show that were finishing fights. This really capped off maybe some of the best prelims I've ever seen in my entire life. Maybe some of the most mismatched prelims.
I can't believe you were saying that online. Yeah. I was laughing my face off. I also cursed you. For those who don't know, I cursed Sean Ross Sapp because these are the Jesus. You peeps that watch this podcast and the Holy Smokes podcast hear me bitch and complain all the time how Saturday nights can be a bit of a challenge. As a married man with a child, with so many couples, with young kids, we're always together, blah, blah. But Saturdays, I got to be home, man. I'm sorry, boys. I can't have a good time. Got to work. But sometimes the wife says, hey, we got to do this. We got to go to this dinner. We got to do that. Okay, but I got to get home. I got to be home. I can get home by 9, but I got to catch up and watch this. And every time that happens, every single prelim goes the freaking distance. Tonight, so what I did is I got the UFC calendar and I downloaded it to my wife's phone. So she knows, don't make plans on this Saturday or that Saturday, blah, blah, or at least ask me. Okay? Yeah. This, in my opinion, because it wasn't a pay-per-view, could have been a night that she could have said, hey, you know what? We're inviting people over or we're going out. That would have been no problem because you know what? Every fight's going to go 5 rounds. Who cares? Nope. I'm sitting on my couch tonight and first round finish after first round finish after first, and I'm just sitting there going, that Sean Ross Sapp just pissed me off. So,
yeah, that's what I do. Right. I thought Hermanson looked good. Also, a few other finishes on there. Dustin Ortiz just starts Sandoval record time out of a flyweight.
Yeah, man.
Whew. What else can you say? He starts the guy, and he needed to. He really needed to win because I thought that if he lost, he would be one of those ranked fighters that you saw that were done. I think four losses in 5 fights is bad, but he bought himself some more time, and he kept his name there. And at 28 years old, that's good. Is he still fighting out of Rufus Sport? If so, then they had a pretty damn good night.
Yeah.
They've had a pretty good damn week in that event. But he's a guy who has beaten Zach Makovsky, Ray Borg, Justin Scoggins, and while to the naked eye that may not seem like much, those are pretty impressive wins, all things considered, because that division's always been pretty competitive. Ronnie Yaya versus Briones was such a mismatch. Were they mad at Briones or something? What was they were just like, let's get him the hell out of here.
Yeah, and break his arm while you're at it, or break his shoulder while you're at it.
Yeah, I'm always a double wrist lock fan, but man, matching up a guy who has now won his. So to put it like this, how mismatched this was. Ronnie Yaya has won 5 of his last 6. Briones is on a 3-fight losing streak. That didn't make any sense to me. Joseph Morales over Roberto Sanchez. Good, nice finish. But let's talk about the real main event of this podcast, Joe.
I knew you were going to snap when this happened. Now, there's I
want a 3-question test before anybody can get in the UFC.
As a referee or as a fighter?
As a fighter.
Okay.
First, show me how you walk in the cage. If they cross their feet, you're out. You're out.
Number 2.
Is this legal? Fighting with your fingers out. If they say yes,
Get out.
They're out. Also, what do you do here? And you show them somebody holding onto a guillotine while their opponent has them in side control. If they say, hold on to that sumbitch, you're gone.
Out.
You're gone. You know when you learn to not do that, Joe? After the first time it happens to you. That's how. You hold on to it. You're like, oh, I got him good. Then you go to sleep and you never do it again. Never, ever, ever do it again. Or, Joe, you learn to not do it when you watch a UFC fight and you see somebody doing it to OSP 7 times.
Yeah.
You just watch fight. I don't know how somebody in the UFC, much less somebody who is like 15 fights deep in their career, Herrera has been training for a decade. This guy trained at Jackson Wink, Joe, and he got tapped with a Von Flue choke. Now, guys, some of you all may not understand this. You haven't seen me explain it. And I had somebody say, "Oh, well, I trained with Jordan, and he's really good. That's fine. I'm sure he's great. I'm sure he's really good. But he can't do that without Herrera's help."
January 16th, 2006.
Yeah.
Jason Von Flue submitted Alex Karalexis with what is called the Von Flue choke. That's when it was introduced to the world, the Von Flue choke. That Monday in jiu-jitsu class, all of us were, did you see? Figure it out. Let's do it. Well, it's actually simple. Why don't we do this? Blah, blah. And we searched, and we practiced the Von Flue choke over and over and over and over again. Guy, girl, puts you in a guillotine. You can try and sneak this in.
Perhaps the most simple counter submission, period.
By Tuesday, nobody was getting caught with Von Flue chokes.
Yeah.
Never. And that was January, I'll say 18th or 19th, 2006. It is now August 6th, 2017. You bring it up all the time. It annoys the crap out of you. Nobody should be getting caught in a Von Flue choke in mixed martial arts. It's not in the UFC. And when it happens, I shake my head. And it's one of the things, it's almost like a big bone of contention for Big John McCarthy when he teaches in the command course. Because not only did he bring it up in the referees course, he brought it up in the judging course when we took it. You can, and Frank Trink can verify this for me. He gets annoyed when referees don't know when a Von Flue choke is on. There's nothing worse than a referee that sees a guillotine and a guy inside control, and the referee is looking to see if the guillotine is on tight. They're like, son? No, it's the opposite. And where the referee was placed today, if you look very closely to where the referee was placed today,
ignorant, bad. As soon as you see that guy on the bottom holding on to that guillotine, whenever the opponent goes into side control, you hop over. I'm not, I didn't go through anything that you went through, Joe. And I know that you hop over, you go to the guy's head who's holding on to the guillotine because you know what's coming. You should know what's coming. Hell, if I'm the referee, I might even say, hey, homeboy, let go of that thing. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking? That's probably what I'd do. I'm like, let's not embarrass us all here.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? A referee starts yelling, no, don't do that. No. Just, sorry, don't do it. Don't do it.
Let's spare us all. I don't want to be on this highlight any more than you do.
That's awesome. What else you want to talk about? Because that's the card, son.
That's it. We got Mayweather-McGregor coming up in a few weeks. We have, on the wrestling side of things, in 2 weeks, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn and WWE SummerSlam. But then the week that follows, we have Mayweather-McGregor. It's going to be, Joe, it'll be myself, you, and lead boxing writer Carlos Toro, who is going to be covering the event. So we'll have coverage from all aspects because, I mean, hell, I can consider myself an entertainment writer, if anything. You're a mixed martial arts specialist. Carlos, a boxing specialist, covers events at the Barclays Center for us all the time. A real good time that will be, I'm sure. But let me. This is what we can talk about for a couple of minutes. I think you know what I'm talking about. Paulie Did you see that?
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I thought to myself, are they paying him to say this stuff? Something's going on here. Something weird's going on here.
If he's that much of a baby, I don't know. Well, let's mention this. He put on his Twitter, they can release whatever they want. I don't care. And this was a couple weeks ago, the end of July. He also trashed Mayweather quite a bit during the Showtime presentation. And McGregor said he's going to have to answer to that. He's going to have to answer to that. So he goes into this place at the UFC Performance Institute where they have a wing of it closed off.
Yeah.
Nobody's allowed in except for photographers from now let me just spell out the outlet name. The Mac Life. If you expect a photographer from the Mac Life to be impartial, Playboy, I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know what you're thinking. So he gets super upset that McGregor posted a photo, or McGregor's photographer posted a photo of him on the ground. Now, keep in mind, this is days after Paulie is on a bit of a media tour saying that McGregor gets tired after the 6th round, that he doesn't have, oh my God, power. And then he gets on Twitter and says, what happens in sparring stays in sparring. And I was like, bro, you and Joe Cortez just did a bunch of interviews. First off, well, I don't know why McGregor wouldn't have them sign NDAs. Maybe he just doesn't give a shit. But, man, that was weird. And then Paulie left, and then Paulie tried to say they didn't pay him. Yeah, right.
That's BS, first of all. Second of all, saying he beat the brakes off him.
Yeah. I don't know if he beat the brakes off of him. I don't know who beat up who.
I agree with the NDAs. I'm surprised there was no non-disclosure agreement signed. Like, I mean, it's this biggest fight of all time, combat sports wise. You got to sign them. I mean, it's just drama. I think he's trying to play off it, but I don't think he's going to get anything out of it, really. I mean, it's crazy, but we're getting close. It's 20 days away, man. It is 20 days away. Today's the 6th of August. Officially, it's 2:04 a.m. Eastern time. It is 20 days away. I will be a fat guy that night, just for those that are tuning in right now, because I have a wedding that night. I'm at that age now where we've gone through that wedding stage. I think you've got like 40 of them this year, Sean. Yeah. So my wife and I and my son, obviously more or less my wife and I, we haven't been to a wedding in probably 4 or 5 years, and we get this invitation. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just, oh my God, it's like a cousin night. Yeah, we'll go for sure. We'll have a good time. Italian wedding. Get to eat like a horse. My diet's going to be blown that week. August 26th. I was like, oh boy, how is this going to work? So, and the wife's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, we're going to go because they don't enter the ring until what, midnight? I said, even if I get home by 10:30, I'll watch 3 fights beforehand. I'll get in there. But thought to myself, I'm going to be a fat guy coming from an Italian wedding. You and Carlos are going to run that show. Just make sure I don't fall asleep because I'll be drinking espressos at my desk right here nonstop. So, but I can't wait, man. It's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good time. Well, over the next few weeks, we'll be talking some of the upcoming UFC cards, as well as the news in mixed martial arts, the upcoming Ultimate Fighter 26th. So, guys, make sure you tune in to Holy Smokes MMA Podcast, one of our flagship podcasts, along with The List and your boy. We do Holy Smokes MMA Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Also, guys, head over to Fightful.com and the Fightful YouTube. Subscribe to us. Thumbs us up. All that stuff helps. Click the notification button. I have a vlog from my Canada trip there. Lots of fun was had, but that's all we got tonight, Joe.
Apparently, you're an honorary Canadian.
I am.
Congratulations.
The place made quite an impression on me.
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. You got to come back. Get Jimmy Van to bring you back. But
even if Jimmy Van doesn't bring me back, I'm coming back.
LV Sports Group. Is Joe Sicilian or Italian? Oh, I get the joke. I guess I'm Canadian, but I guess I'm Italian. I get the joke, LV. I'm not going to get into it because that'll get us all in trouble. But yeah. Anyways, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. You crazies in the live chat, we sincerely appreciate it. Those on iTunes, Stitcher, Thank you. Please share it. Please give us some love. Give us some feedback. Give us some stars. I don't care if it's 1 star or 5 stars. Just give us something and tell people about us, because we're having a great time. We're building this. We're having just this. It's real live analysis, breakdowns. We have a good time. Sean loses his shit whenever there's one FLUE chokes in events. Follow the Twitter, because he's absolutely crazy sometimes. And, you know, I haven't started mocking him just yet, because it's not fun when I do, but I might soon. But he's just so smart. He's so good. So anyways, we thank all of you for tuning in. Don't forget, Tuesday, Holy Smokes podcast. We're going to have a good time. Sean and I will discuss who knows what, because who knows what's going to come out of this. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting next few weeks for the world of mixed martial arts as we lead up to the biggest fight of all time, combat sports-wise, with Conor McGregor taking on Floyd Mayweather. We will break that down, not ad nauseum, but dissect it, break it down, see what happens, start looking at the mind games. But yes, we thank you, Sean, as always. Thank you very much for joining us here afterwards. Give them a follow at Sean Ross Sapp. Follow yours truly at Showdown Joe. As you can see on the screen, at Fightful MMA is a Twitter. We're also on Instagram. Give us some love. Give us a follow. Share it. Retweet it. Just give us some love, because we love you. And for now, we say goodnight. Ciao for now.